This episode of the MSP podcast is brought to you by Big Tex Outdoors. Everything you could possibly need for your firearm. If he doesn't have it, you probably don't need it. And brought to you by Tier 1 Concealment and the Modern Samurai Project Pro Series holster. Still can't do a sub-second draw? We'll get a Tier 1 Concealment holster. Still can't? Well, at least now you know it's not the holster's fault. And primary and secondary, the definitive source for the armed professional and the responsible citizen. Quit your bitching about all the rules and get better. Hey guys, welcome back to the Modern Samurai Project podcast, otherwise known as the Get Better podcast. I know it's been a very long time, been super busy, man. Taught 103 classes last year, mainly with my main man here, AJ Zito, who we're going to talk to in just a little bit. So I got a super exciting, at least for me anyway. If you guys haven't figured out anyway, I do this podcast for me. If you guys dig it, awesome. If you don't really care. That being said, so anyway, welcome back to the podcast. I know it's been a minute, man. We got a good one here for you. I want to welcome back my main man here, AJ Zito of Practical Performance. AJ, in case these people have been living under a rock, tell them who you are, brother.
Sure. So first off, thank you for having me again. Great to be back on the show. I'm AJ Zito. I run a company called Practical Performance, where I build custom 1911s and 2011s. And I also go around the country, mostly with you, teaching performance shooting and red dot shooting to guys. I'm a former military guy, former executive protection guy. And now I spend most of my time just teaching performance shooting and building guns.
Hell yeah. Better than working for a living, right?
That's right.
Yeah. All right. So the theme of this show is going to be, so you want a 2011, right? Which is all the craze right now, right? I mean, can you truly flex on the internets without a 2011, right? But I think people are kind of confused on the platform, right? There's some back and forth about the fact that the base technology based on the 1911 has been around for over 100 years. Why would you need to do that? Why you need to spend so much money? Yada, 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 right? So let's kind of go through that, right? So the first thing I want to talk about is, bro, why 2011? And to be clear, I'm going to do this, right? So I know all the dudes at Staccato, right? They're not going to sue me. Just so everybody knows, the term 2011 is a registered trademark of Staccato, right? It's been that way since they were STI. Now they're Staccato. Everybody knows what everybody means. I don't make no goddamn money off of a 2011, so whatever, relax, okay? Now, when AJ says a double stack 1911, that's because he's in the business of making them, right? And he don't want to step on any toes, all right? So if anybody over at Staccato gets their, panties in a bunch because he slips and says 2011, I'll fight you. Anyway.
That's fair.
That's fair. Starting with Vince Jameson. Anyway, all right, moving on. All right, goddamn. So moving on. All right, brother. So why a 2011, man? Why don't we just go ahead and get a 500-600 plastic gun that works just as good? Why a 2011?
Well, there's the problem in the statement right there. Just as good. They aren't just as good. You're I'm sorry. All They're
right.
just not. There are some serious design things within the 2011 platform that you don't see anywhere else in the plastic gun market.
Okay.
The big thing, right, is the steel frame. Now, don't get me wrong. We've got some production style guns that have steel frames that are fantastic guns. But it's a combination of a lot of things. It's going to be the weight of the gun, for one thing. Everyone gets so wrapped up in this idea of, I need a really light gun, and that's dumb. Light guns have a lot of issues with them, right? So the heavier gun, and we're talking the difference between a 30-ounce gun and a 36-ounce gun. So it's not a huge difference, but it's enough to notice when shooting. So there's definite some performance gains by running a heavier gun like a 2011 or a double stack 1911. The biggest thing in there, right? The biggest thing that no one else can touch on the platform is the way the trigger works, right? It is the only trigger system out there on modern pistols, modern firearms, that is truly a straight back to the rear push or pull. Every other gun uses a form of a hinged style trigger, right? Which isn't bad. It just leads to a little more deliberate care you might have to put into utilizing that trigger system, because it is not designed to go straight to the rear. Even though we sit there in classes, we don't, but a lot of people do in classes and say, oh, you got to press that trigger straight to the rear. Well, the triggers don't go straight to the rear, except a 1911 and 2011 style gun.
Yeah. So we've been talking a lot about trigger control, right? Mainly because we get so frustrated when people get wrapped around the axle with trigger control and then they ignore their support hand grip, right?
Right.
You know, what I say, and you don't disagree with me in class, I appreciate that. But what I generally say is what is marksmanship? Marksmanship is how well and how strong you grab with your support hand and how good your trigger press is. I don't say straight back to the rear. I say how good your trigger press is, right? 90% can be controlled by your support hand. And the other 10% is your trigger press, right? For hyper accurate shots at distance, right? You know, the most common test of which is a B8 at 25 yards. Right. Anyway, what we have found and what I have found in my own practice is that when you are isolating accuracy on a fulcrum type of trigger, like you would see on a striker fired gun, more meat at the bottom of the trigger provides more leverage.
100% correct.
On a flat or a 1911, which is a straight back trigger, the advantage of that is it doesn't really matter where you put your finger on the trigger. The leverage is the same for that even distribution of effort to the back, causing less disruption of the sights. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you can't replicate that in any other platform than a 1911 or a 2011, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it just none of the other systems utilize the same trigger bow system, the internal system of the trigger that allows it to go straight back. Everyone else hinges on a pin connected to the frame, and no one does it the same way.
Okay.
So yeah.
And I think you started to get into the weight of it, right? What is the weight of the gun? How does that actually affect performance?
Yeah. So the weight of the gun, in a nutshell, really, it's about the distribution of weight and reciprocal force, right? Every time a gun recoils, right, it moves straight back, and we say up, right? Because it's going to follow the path of least resistance based on our grip and the way we shoot the gun. But with a 1911, because the way the frame is, with a 1911 or a double stack 1911, the weight in the frame is actually helping hold the gun down, for lack of a better term, right? So the felt recoil, the perceived recoil from, identical cartridge to identical cartridge from, whatever gun compared to this gun is going to be less, because the recoil it's basically being forced to try and move a heavier object. And the heavier object doesn't want to move like the lighter object does. So your perceived recoil or your felt recoil is going to be less. Now, there's way more that goes into that when we start getting about timing and slide weights and things like that. But, the general idea is the heavier gun recoils less, or at least you perceive it to recoil less.
Yeah, it's easier to shoot, right?
Yep.
Any effects on that weight on durability?
So that's an interesting question. The way the gun's designed, a steel frame versus like a polymer frame gun, the guns are completely different. Polymer frame guns actually flex and recoil, where a steel frame gun does not flex and recoil. So that adds a little different feel, a little different durability. I expect them to live the same life lifespan. I will say, most of the time, a polymer frame gun will not last as long as a steel frame gun. But the big thing with steel frame guns is most of the issues we see with them can be fixed. You know, you get a crack in the frame, we weld it up. If it's in, you know, a place we can do that. Polymer frame gun, your holes open up, or your rails, like on a Glock, right? Your rails start coming out. The frame's scrap at that point. It's done.
Live that life.
You know?
Live that life.
Your takedown lever goes up into the polymer. That frame's done.
And we all know what happens. Nothing good happens when your holes all open up.
That's right.
Racing. All right. So okay. So that's pretty much it, right? And then so why a 2011 over 1911? Capacity.
Totally.
Capacity. Okay. So now let's play devil's advocate. Okay. So let's talk about some of the myths of why you wouldn't want a 1911 or a 2011 platform. Okay. What's the first one? Reliability.
Sure.
Right? Why don't you attack that one?
Yeah. So here's the problem. Whenever anyone talks about reliability in regards to 1911, 2011 style guns, to, let's say, a Glock, you are not comparing apples and apples. You're comparing a $600, $700 Glock that's designed exactly the way it's supposed to be, and you're comparing a cheap $500, $600 1911/2011 to the same thing. And I will tell you, you cannot have a $600 gun that is built correctly when it comes to the 1911, 2011 style platform. It just doesn't work that way. So people want to talk about reliability. You're not comparing things. It's like comparing a Glock to a Lorsen, right? The Lorsen just doesn't have the same, you know, the same build, or a Glock to a High Point. They're both polymer guns, but one sucks and one doesn't.
Or it's like comparing a Honda Accord to a Porsche.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah. So yeah, you could ignore the Honda Accord, change the oil, maybe, right? Put gas in it, and it's going to get you to point A to point B, and you can actually make that Honda Accord pretty fast.
Sure.
Right? But with a Porsche, right? It's no one's going to say that a Porsche is not a better car than an Accord, but you can't ignore the Accord.
Right.
All right. Which I think is probably the best reason not to have a 2011 or 1911 platform if you are a lazy mofo. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Why don't you talk about that? So let's talk about care of that thing and where that has progressed. Because that's, I mean, in my opinion, that is really where the past couple of years, a 2011 platform has taken off in acceptance across masses, right? By masses, I'm talking about people using it as their EDC gun, their duty gun and stuff like that. And it's basically been because of the maintenance level has gone severely down, right? Why is that, bro? Why is that?
Right. So to understand that, you kind of have to understand the history of the 2011 platform, the STI platform, you know, which has been around since the 80s. It's nothing new. It's not called a 2011 because it came out in 2011. That's nothing. Understand that they had a real bad track record for a long time because they had reliability issues. And then Staccato took over, right? The birthing of Staccato, and they refocus on the guns. These guns aren't lawnmowers, right? We live in a plug and play world with Glocks, right? So you start having erratic extraction and ejection on a Glock. What do? You change your extractor, pop out a piece, put in a new piece, change a spring, and we go about our way. That's something the end user, the owner, can do all day. Mm-hmm. Because the way the guns are built, I mean, come on, they're shovels, right? They're built and stamped, and there's no real fitting that goes into them. And that's the way they're designed. And for what they're designed for, they're an excellent choice. But when you get into, you know, a Ferrari, you know, which a 2011 is, it's a Ferrari. You wouldn't just be like, oh, well, I'm just going to swap this part out and I'm sure it'll be fine. No, you got to take that to the dealer, to the real mechanic, and he's got to start putting some attention into that vehicle. And it's the same way with the 2011, the extractor system, which is phenomenal. A lot of people give it a bad rap, but no one's come out with anything better as far as I'm concerned. But it does take an educated end user to tune the extractor system. You have to know what, you know, how to bend that extractor, what the profile of that extractor needs to be, because they do lose tension. It's a piece of spring steel. So you have to know how to do that as the end user. You have to keep the guns lubed. That's the biggest thing we've seen in the past is guys give the 1911, 2011 a bad rap, and they haven't put a single drop of lube on it in its life, because Glocks will run forever without lube, you know, until they don't, which I was in a class this weekend, and when Glocks started choking, they were dry as dry. So all guns, you know, machines need lubrication, especially ones with extremely tight tolerances. And that's one of the big things with the 1911s, especially now that Staccato has come out and put together an extremely reliable gun that now they've learned how to tune extractors properly. They've learned how to tune ejectors properly. They've learned how to fit slide to frames well, so that they're not overly tight so they don't run, but they're loose enough to where getting them dirty and dry isn't going to completely shut them down. So we've come a long way, and that's really why I think we're starting to see, you know, the Staccatos become a serious contender now in the EDC, you know, carry market, law enforcement market. Is they've figured out the combination that, you know, custom gunsmiths have been doing for a long time, but they figured out how to do it on a production scale, on a wider scale, without the need for highly trained gunsmiths to rebuild that gun. So good on them.
Yep. Well, what was the other major part for performance reliability that they figured out?
So for them, spring rates are always a big thing. The feed ramp cutting was a major deal.
Okay.
But
what does everybody always point to? What do they have to completely re-engineer to get those things to run reliably in a EDC or duty type level, right? The magazines.
Oh, of course. Yeah. So that's been a plague since Chip McCormick, you know, sent out the first frame. You know, the magazines have always been an issue, and until recently, you know, a lot of us guys who specialize in 1911s and double stack 1911s made a pretty good chunk of change, essentially retuning, we call it tuning, magazines to work. And then STI, I forget how many years ago now, came out with their Gen 2 magazine, which is, it was funny because right when they came out, I ordered, you know, a handful of them. I'm like, all right, let's see what they're doing. Check their numbers, check their dimensions, and it's almost identical to what we were doing to retune these magazines to be reliable. So the magazines today, you know, I'm not saying it's big production. You're going to get a dud every now and then, right? But the Gen 2 magazines are, you know, we haven't seen reliable magazines like that on the market before that Gen 2 magazine came out. And the magazines, you know, there's another double stack 1911 platform out there that is essentially dead now, even on the custom gunsmith market, because the magazines are just beyond crap. And now they actually build the frame, and they don't even build the magazine for the gun anymore. You got to buy it for a plastic gun magazine or a different gun, production gun magazine, and rebuild it. So STI did a great job. Staccato did a great job re-engineering, taking what we learned about making reliable magazines and building a production model of it. You know,
and hasn't MBX, the magazine company, retooled their design too to keep up with the Staccato mags?
I believe so. I believe MBX has just shifted their design slightly.
Don't want to get sued.
Yeah. The new staccatos, I'll tell you this: the new staccatos are not the same as the old staccatos.
Okay.
And they're not the same as the old STIs. The grip modules are set up differently. The guns are built differently. And therefore we have to adjust a little bit. So you're going to see, you know, guys changing a little bit on how they do things in order to run with the newer staccato line. So
okay, cool. All right, so let's talk a little bit about performance as far as reasons why you wouldn't get a 2011 and some of those objections we always hear. Internet, we're probably going to hurt some feelings, right? You're probably going to disagree with what AJ says, which is what I say because I default to what AJ says, and has brought my 2011 performance through the roof, right? So let's talk about the first one, right? Or the minimal one, right? But that grip safety, I can't always engage it. I think, can I get rid of that thing, or can I just pin it down with a rubber band? Talk to me about the grip safety, bro.
No, stop putting rubber bands on your grip safeties. That's stupid. That's stupid, and you're dumb for doing it.
Okay, why are they dumb for doing it then, though? But they don't have to worry about it anymore.
So, number one, I get it, right? Grip. Nobody likes the grip safety. They believe it shouldn't exist, which I would absolutely disagree with. You know, yes, it wasn't on the original design. All the 1911 aficionados go, well, John Moses Browning never intended for the gun to have a grip safety. Yeah, until the Army said, hey, you need to put a way to make that gun not fire when it drops. Because really what the grip safety is it's a drop safety. That's what it's there for. It stops the trigger from being pulled if the thumb safety is off and inertia were to fire that gun. That's why it's there.
Let me ask a noob question, non-gunsmith question, right? So the 1911 does not have a plunger type of safety like a plastic gun does. Or does it?
So we separate guns into basically two categories. What we refer to as Series 70 guns and Series 80 guns. And those terminologies really go back to Colt when they were, you know, the primary manufacturer of 1911s. A Series 70 or pre-70 type gun does not have a plunger type safety, which is really a firing pin block safety. The Series 80 guns do have a plunger type or a firing pin block safety.
Okay, so when you build a gun, what series is it?
I build a Series 70 gun.
Okay,
I
do not. Nobody gives a shit about Series 80s.
No.
Okay, so for all intents and purposes, right, a proper 2011 is not going to have that plunger safety like in the Series 80, correct?
Correct.
So my point is this, right? Would anybody take their plunger safety out of their Glock or out of their Walther? No, you wouldn't. Well, why are you doing that with the congruent similar thing that has not English, but I apologize. You know what I mean, right, guys? Why would you take off the same thing on your 1911? That doesn't make any sense, right? So, right? I mean, that's the bottom line, right?
Yep.
Now, why are people having a hard time engaging that grip safety?
Sure. And this part I do understand. We see this because of two reasons. Number one, you don't know how to shoot guns and you're not gripping the gun properly. So that's the first part. Now, there is a caveat to that. I will say this. A lot of companies do not tune the grip safety properly.
Okay. All right.
They are more concerned about the safety aspect, which I totally understand, of the grip safety than they are the performance aspect of the grip safety. When I grip the gun, I expect that grip safety to come off immediately. A lot of companies want you to have the most masterful master grip you've ever seen in order to get that grip safety off, so that then you can shoot the gun. The answer is not there. It needs to be lighter than that. I need to be able to grab that gun with a semi-relaxed strong hand grip, and that grip safety should come off. That's where there's a couple different designs in grip safeties. A lot of them, you'll see a hump at the back. That's in order for that grip safety to engage here and come off easier. The originals didn't have it. So deactivating the grip safety is not the right answer. It just absolutely is not the right answer. But tuning it is the right answer.
Is the right answer. Okay. So, but that begs the question, right? So you have like the Wilson Combat EDC9 or whatever they call that thing. That doesn't have a grip safety. So have they replaced it with the Series 80 plunger type safety mechanism?
So I have not gotten into that gun personally, but I, if I had to guess, I am sure there is something in there.
There's got to be.
Yeah, I would think.
There's got to be. You got to have some backup to that single seat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Cool. All right. Then the next safety, that dumb thumb safety, man. Every time I forget to take that thing off, or when I do take it off, it messes with my grip. So I don't like that thing. And it slows me down.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, if you forget to take your thumb safety off, you are not practicing correctly and you are not trained properly. It is a subconscious action to take that thumb safety off. It happens immediately. As soon as I clear body or holster, whichever is later, that thumb safety comes off. And if you're forgetting to take it off, you have not practiced enough with that gun. It should be a subconscious action no matter what. If you're not building a grip or that thumb safety is getting in the way of the grip, you're taking that thumb safety off way too late.
Oh,
and here's the key.
Here we go.
Right?
Here we go.
Yeah. And I see it all the time, right? And we see it all the time, right? Well, I can't get a good grip because I get out to the target and then I take my thumb safety off. Well, there's your problem. Before both hands get on the gun, so before that support hand gets on the gun, that thumb safety needs to be off. You cannot build a good two-handed grip with your thumb safety engaged, because once you disengage it, it's going to push that support hand down and it's going to mess with your grip. It's just not the way you need to run that platform.
But gun sight.
Right.
Go.
Right.
And with all due respect, guys, right? So when I say that, I'm not making fun of the legends of Gunsight, right? Those guys built the game, but that doesn't mean we can't progress beyond the game, right? No one is going to pick Bill Russell over Shaquille O'Neal, but Bill made the game. Shaquille just took it to that next level. That's all we're talking about. That's all we're talking about, right? Yeah. So the classic, don't take off the safety until your sights are on target. Why doesn't that not stand up to modern standards?
So here's the problem with the whole thing, right? If I am taking my safety off when I get on target, I'm way behind the power curve. And we try and relate that to modern style guns. Like I utilize the Glock because it's pretty familiar with everyone, right?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I don't have a safety on my Glock that I have to take off. Actually, you do. You have two safeties that have to come off on the Glock, except they're controlled by you putting your finger on the trigger. So really on the Glock, right, you've got that little tab on the trigger. That is a safety. So you touch the trigger and you start taking that safety off. That's what happens. With the 1911, it's not much different. I don't want you to start thinking about this thumb safety is stopping you from shooting the wrong person. That's not what that thumb safety is there for, right? The thumb safety is there so that when you go into the holster, you come out of the holster, whatever administrative task you're doing, that you don't mess up and something get caught in your trigger and fire the gun, right? It's a similar idea to like a striker controlled device. It tells me something bad's going to happen, except the thumb safety stops something bad from happening when I'm holstering or drawing the gun or doing other administrative tasks with the gun.
Which is the purpose of the thumb safety, right? It's
Absolutely.
not to not shoot the wrong person. It's when you're holstering the gun, right? So that if you bump something or hit something or something happens, that single sear doesn't fall off and you shoot yourself while you're holstering, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. When you're drawing, you are not holstering the gun. So get that thing off.
Absolutely.
When it clears kydex and body, get that thing off, right?
Exactly.
And we see it time and time and time again. And I always love it when you say that to somebody, right? And they're like, well, you don't have a safety on your Glock and you don't have a problem putting, what? Huh?
Yep.
What? And like, but
it's because we haven't thought the problem through. And let me just say this about the gun sight stuff, right? Guys really fall back on that and they don't look at the whole evolution of why that rule existed. There's a lot of stuff that comes out of these places that existed for a reason that has nothing to do with gunfighting or shooting. It has to do with administrative tasks. Why does the tactical reload exist? Everyone thinks it's, someone came up with it or Cooper came up with it because in gunfighting, I want to top the gun off. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That existed because Cooper hated for people to be bending over to pick up magazines halfway through drills. So he taught people this tactical reload, 100%. That is why the tactical reload exists, or the reload with retention. Has absolutely nothing to do with tactical shooting or performance shooting whatsoever. It has to do with Jeff Cooper, Colonel Cooper, not liking people bending over in the middle of strings of fire. That's why it's there.
Yeah. And you know what, bro? You can't fault him for that.
Absolutely not.
You can't fault him that. I mean, there are things that we have tried to teach in class that, while they are useful skills, doing it in a class-wide environment, just way too much work.
Yeah,
there's way too much work, and there's too much of a proclivity for things not going well, right? So we eliminate them. Right? I get it. We could have just changed the drill to make it some wash down thing and confuse people. Instead, we just eliminated that. They couldn't do that back then. You know what I mean? Right. They couldn't do that back then. Outstanding, man. Okay, so we said why you should have it. We went through some of the myths that people say about the platform, right? Then finally, hey, bro, is it possible to do a sub-second draw on a 2011 while engaging the grip or disengaging the grip safety and the thumb safety? Is it possible to do that?
Yeah, 100%. My black belt patch is proof you can do that.
100%. 100%.
So, yeah, I mean,
6 all day long.
Yeah, it comes down to you as the shooter, as the end user, as the craftsman of that gun. You need to understand how it works. Yes, you have to learn how to take that safety off. You have to learn when to take that safety off. But it costs me no time because it happens when I need it to happen. As soon as I clear body or kydex, whichever is later, boom, safety's off. I can build my grip. It costs me nothing. It really costs me nothing.
Awesome. All right. So let's talk about some of the major double stack 1911 companies out there that have made a name for themselves. Let's talk about the ones you build. Things like that. So first of all, let's, the Mac Daddy out there, let's talk about staccato. What do you think about the staccatos, man?
Sure. I think staccatos are great. I have a ton of respect for staccato. I have a ton of respect for Sean Armstrong and the guys that have really made that genius thing. Yeah. Take a real gunsmith, put him in charge of guys building high quality firearms, and I would expect it to turn into that.
And
Now,
what else
that
is
being-
Sean? What else is Sean that you don't find in every gunsmith? He's a shooter.
Exactly.
He's a shooter.
Exactly.
Man.
You
Sorry,
know,
I ran over you on that one. Go ahead, finish what you're saying.
no, but that's a real thing. That's a huge thing. It always, you know, when I was still teaching at the college for gunsmithing, it amazed me how many gunsmiths don't shoot guns. They just don't.
Yeah.
They, you know, and I, you know, I used to preach time and time again. How can you really understand what you're doing if you don't shoot these things? Like, how do you know what your customer wants? You have no understanding of performance or shooting or ability. It just makes you way better, like Sean, if you understand what the gun needs to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but you know, here's what I say about the staccatos now, and I don't mean this to come across as you know, talking crap about staccato, but for me, any staccato at the $3,000 mark and below is 1,000% worth the money. It's exactly what you should expect for a $3,000 or below gun.
Okay.
Totally. You know, they run, they're accurate. They have mostly good triggers on them. There's a lot of great benefits to those guns. I do think once we get above that $3,000 mark with staccato, and it's not just staccato, lots of other companies as well. I think we're in custom gun territory, and I would expect a little bit more for my money, at least benefits and features wise. But other than that, you know, the staccato Ps, the staccato C2s, they are fantastic guns. Fantastic guns.
Now, the one that I have, right, that I got off a buddy, that's actually a first. That's actually more of an Omni than it is. What do they call the new one? The new comp one?
XC.
The XC. Mine's more of an Omni, right?
It is, because yours is built off the original DVC slide and DVC package gun. So it is an Omni. Yeah.
I fucking love that gun.
It's great. It's a great gun.
It's fucking. There's only one reason not to shoot that gun is that it spoils you for everything else. You know
it does.
What I mean? And that's like, well, that's just because you shoot for Walther and blah blah. No, dude. I'm not carrying that gun to a wedding. Yeah,
sure.
You know what I mean? And if I get great, you know, with my PDPs or whatever, when I pick up the XC, it's just going to make me that much better, right? If I stick with my XC, my Omni or whatever, and I go to my PDP, there's some adjustment period there. You know what I mean? So, and staccato doesn't pay me. So that's the other reason, God damn it. Anyway, right. Okay, so that's staccato. Okay, all right. So probably the next production level 2011s out there are the Nighthawks, right?
Sure.
Have you gotten into any? I mean, I probably had about maybe a dozen or so of the Nighthawks come to my class. They're always the comp version because I think you're going to go retard, go full retard. What do you think about the Nighthawk 2011 specifically?
Yeah. So actually, one interesting thing. I am one of the few guys that back in the day, Nighthawk used to do this thing called an FLX mod, right? It was before they started introducing all these new ones. They only built 100 of them. And I was lucky enough to purchase one of those many years ago. And I ran that gun for a long time. And it's a 2011 built by Nighthawk. And it was fantastic. So I shot that gun a lot. Their new ones are reminiscent of those guns as well. I think they're fantastic guns. Their Firehawk, I believe, is the comp version now. You know, they're fantastic guns. I'm glad you use the term production because that is what they are. Guys seem to think that, and I get it, it's Nighthawk custom, right? But at that point, we're dealing with this in between. It's not a true custom gun. It's what we refer to as like a factory custom gun. They're built the same way all the time. You might be able to decide, do you want a dot on it? Do you not want a dot on it? Do you want a square trigger? Do you want a curved trigger? What do you, little tips and things, but it's not a true custom gun. But they are very nice guns, very nice guns. I think up till the $4,000 mark, you can't go wrong with those guns. Above that mark, we're back in true custom gun territory. But here's the deal, and here's one of the things that Staccato, Nighthawk, any of the other companies have over true custom guns. You can get them right now. You can order it and you can have it within a week to your FFL and sign your paperwork, your 4473, and in most states, in good states, go home with it that day, or start your waiting period from there. You can't do that with custom guns, at least most custom guns. It's hard to do that.
Yep. There is that trade-off. Okay,
Yep.
so those are probably the two big boys, right?
Yeah.
Is any other major production companies make a 2011? Does Dan Wesson make a 2011?
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh, that's going to be a dude. I'm excited to see that when they do that, because Wesson, dude, I think Dan Wesson 1911s are probably the most unsung value out there in that market. Would you agree with
Totally
that?
agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I think for the money, the Dan Wesson is the best thing out there.
Yeah.
They are one of the few guns that I have no problem. I'll spend $1,200 on that gun. I will go, I will buy it, I will take it out of the box, and granted, verify the sites and do all, whatever you need to do to confirm it. But I would have no problem out of the box, no modifications, holstering that gun and carrying that gun and expecting it to do exactly what I want it to.
And you would never say that about a Springfield 1911 out of the box.
No, sir, I would not. No.
Never.
No, I would not.
Oof.
No, I would not. And here's a big thing too. I would do that with a Dan Wesson in 9mm, which I cannot say about any other 1911 platform in 9mm that's in the same kind of price range.
Exciting. Exciting to look at what they're going to be offering. Very cool. Very cool. All right, cool. All right, so the next tier, right, is sort of maybe not a custom gunsmith, not a production, a medium-sized company, right? The first one that pops up in my mind is the Triarchs, right? Have you gotten to a Triarch? Okay.
So the draw to the Triarchs for most people is, number one, they look really cool, right? Got it. Their price point is very, very, very good.
Okay.
That being said, there's some things going on with the Triarchs that I would be hesitant to jump into a Triarch 2011 gun. I see some issues with how things are fit, how they're finished. Yes, I get it. The slides look really cool. They're really nice.
They got that hexagonal pyramid thing going on.
Yep. And people love that. They love tri-tops. They love, now quad tops. For me, I think I would rather spend the money on something else. And honestly, nothing against Triarch. I'm sure they're great guys. I don't know anyone over there. I can just tell you guys what I've seen from guns I've either had in the shop or shooters I've had on the line with Triarch guns. I think I would prefer something like a Staccato, or save a little bit extra up and go with the Nighthawk gun if I could.
Okay, so that is from the perspective of the race car driver, right? What if you were just some rice rocket guy who goes to your SCCA meets and blah blah blah? Would those type of people, the hobbyists for the most part, right?
Sure.
Would they still have those same issues with a Triarch, or is that just you as a professional?
That's a good question. Very good question. The ones I've seen, there can be reliability issues. So I'm not sure that's where I would want, even as the hobbyist, to
Okay.
go to.
And is that
I
the gun or the magazines? Because they use MBXs, right?
Yeah, the MBX magazines are great.
Okay.
The issue that I have seen comes from the way the extractors are fit. And if you don't know what you're doing when fitting, especially a 9mm extractor to that gun, you're gonna have trouble. You're gonna have trouble. So either number
Well,
one,
let's do this. Let's just do a customer service thing for them.
Sure.
Right. If you were in charge of the Triarch Tri-11 program tomorrow, what would you change?
Okay. So number one, I would fit the barrels differently.
Okay.
And by that, I'd spend a little bit more care on how the barrel engages the slide stop, which is an easy fix to do, but it requires time. And number two, I would fix the extractor systems. The extractors need to be fit differently and tuned properly. Those are the two things I would change right off the bat.
Okay, cool. That's not that bad.
It's not.
And those are common issues.
Totally. And those are probably the two most common issues amongst the platform in general. So.
Okay. So you've had some come into your shop where you fix those issues. And after you fix those issues, how was the gun?
Great.
There you go.
Great.
Okay, cool. All right. Solving the world's problems, one extractor at a time. Right. All right. So then let's get down to so not the one-off guy, but the guy that truly is considered a custom gun maker, but does a lot of them, right? Probably the most popular run right now is Chambers Customs, Joe Chambers, and his series of guns, which have been are to the specs of some of our very good friends, right? Chuck Pressburg, Jared Reston, and whatnot, right? So talk to me about Joe's guns.
Yeah, Joe's guns are great. They're exactly what I would expect at that price point. 100%.
And what is that price point? $5,000, $6,000.
Five in between the $5.5 and $7,000 mark is where you're going to find all his guns, and I believe all his. He doesn't call them signature series. I forget what he calls the the instructor guns, but Reston's gun and some of the other guys' guns.
Pro series,
yeah. The price points on those exactly what they should be. That being said, you as the shooter don't have a lot of options to change things out on that gun, which is why I think Joe can keep those costs a little bit lower, because he just has to build the gun to his spec, and his specs are spot on. Absolutely spot on. The barrels are fit correctly. The extractors are tuned correctly. The spring rates, he and I can argue about the spring ratios a little bit. But for the way he wants to,
and you guys do, just so you guys know,
we do.
They're friends. They talk to each other. You actually are a authorized installer of his RDS mounts for 2011s, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. I'm one of, I think, 4 guys that in the country that can do it. And Joe and I, when we talk on the phone, it's sharing that knowledge back and forth. Well, this is what I think. Well, this is what I think. And we don't agree on everything, for sure. So his beliefs on, I use the spring rates is one place we differ. But again, Joe has a lot of experience with the way he builds guns. He knows what he wants the guns to do. So I think those guns are very well done, very well put together, and you should be very happy with them.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. Is anyone else really like in that same tier as Joe, as the custom guy who can do a custom gun for you, but also has, I don't know what the right word is, a semi-available.
Yeah. I'll tell you the spoiler alert, right? Or I'll tell the people watching the spoiler alert. That's absolutely where we're headed with Practical Performance. We're getting out of pure bespoke, and going more towards that model of gun.
Sweet.
Yeah. So, and really the reason we're doing that is to make guns more available to people.
Okay.
Because if there's one thing about the custom guns, it's that, sure, it's going to be a year to 3 years before you get your gun. And I hate that.
Yeah, I get it.
So we're going to go a little bit more towards that. Maybe not all in on that. Hey, here's the model of gun, but a little bit more like, hey, we have this. What do you want to change about it? And then we'll have that at a much shorter wait period. So we'll be adopting that. There are a couple other guys that I have a lot of respect for, but I can't say that I've ever messed with their guns at all. Guys that come to mind are Brandon Bunker at Bunker Arms does a very similar thing. He has models of guns that you can choose from, basically a menu, but you don't get to change really anything on there. So I haven't used any of Brandon's guns, but they look very well done. And you know, Brandon has an interesting approach. He is 100% trying to do everything he can on a CNC machine. Now people hear that and they think, oh, well, you're just making a production gun. Not the case. He's trying to essentially blueprint a gun so that the consistency of his guns are the same from gun to gun to gun to gun to gun to gun forever and ever, which I think is an interesting concept. So he's got a little bit of a different take on his guns. But other than that, you know, I don't really know of any, you know, small shop. And I say small, I mean less than 5 dudes working in it, versus, you know, a large shop like Nighthawk where there's 25 dudes working in it or however many they've got over there. I'm not sure of anyone else really doing that.
Okay.
I don't mention, you know, Wilson Combat.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. We kind of skipped over them, but why we skip over them, bro?
Yeah, I mean, Wilson Combat for the longest time, since really the 80s, has been a factory custom gun. And they have offerings that are double stack 1911-ish guns. They're not really 1911s. They're this weird hybrid. And I really just don't have enough experience with them. They're not a lot of them out there. So I have a lot of experience with Wilson Combat guns, but not any of the 2011 style, double stack style guns. So I really don't mention them at all.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. You know, just as a side thing, you know, the whole XC9, which is probably the most popular gun out there. I like it. I wish the trigger was a little bit smoother. It's a little bit too of a wallish break for me, but I'm sure that could be, you know, some people like that shit. I don't know why they would, but whatever, bro. Whatever, you know.
It's a very traditional trigger.
I shot BJ Norris's. That's a nice XC9, right? So cool. All right. So now let's get to the super custom guy, and we'll use the best example out there, yourself, right? And let's frame that conversation in what's going into my gun.
Sure.
Right.
Absolutely. So your gun is a true bespoke 2011 gun. You know, we talked initially, and again, the problem with a true bespoke gun, it's been forever since we started this project. And that's on me, 100% on me. Partly your fault too, because I've been on the road teaching with you so much, so I'll blame you for that.
We stacked a whole bunch of layers on that. You know, one of the first things we did was we tried to make a modular gun where I could shoot that from concealment in open. Right. So we wanted, but I also, when I had a moment of insanity and when they picked up carry optics in IDPA, you can use a single stack. I wanted to be able to change out the bull barrels, right, from a comped gun to a non-comp gun. And the solution just wasn't there. And it's not like we didn't research the crap out of this thing, right? So we kind of scrapped that now that you can carry appendix and carry optics. right?
Right.
And soon an IDPA too. You see that?
That's right.
That right?
It's coming.
It's coming. It's coming. It'll be launched right after the relaunch of the Wilson Combat Appendix holsters.
Probably true.
All right. Okay. So other than that, right?
Yeah.
What else? What else did we talk about that gun that makes it truly a custom bespoke gun?
Sure. So there's a lot of features in there that make it a true bespoke gun. Things like your cocking serrations, right? We've got a very specific type of cocking serration that we want to do that is more of a signature. We've done it on a couple
Glocks.
when you were shooting some Glocks. We did it on those guns. So it's kind of a signature to you kind of cocking serration that you wouldn't find on a production or a factory custom type gun. It's truly bespoke. Not only the style, but the placement of those cocking serrations are very specific to the type of gun, to the purpose of the gun. We've got a red dot mounting system on there, which is very specific to you, obviously, because it is a red dot. Other things like the size of the gun, we spent a lot of time addressing, your claw grip and how that is slightly changed because of the 2011 platform with the beaver tail grip safety, and how to address that, because we obviously can't get rid of the grip safety, the beaver tail on the grip safety, because it's a hammer fired gun. But we've done some modifications to that grip safety in order to reduce the size of it as much as we possibly can, to allow either somewhat of a claw grip to it, or at least the modification we teach in the class on how to basically flag the thumb on the side of that, and just make it a little easier. That's something you're not going to find. I can't call up a factory custom gun shop and be like, hey, cool, I want this, but I want you to change all these things, and I've got this gripping style, this presentation style that I want you to modify the gun for. And they're going to be like, yeah, cool, you get what you get, and that's what it is. So that's the thing about bespoke guns. You have a situation you want the gun to adapt to, and as a bespoke gun maker.
I lost it there just for a second. Okay. Well, hopefully everything recorded, because we got gold in there. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. I'll cut all that part off. So you can't have that if you have a less than bespoke gun where you're talking to the guy building your gun.
Absolutely. Some other things, right? We talk about the style of trigger you want. You personally don't like flat triggers. So that's something that we're not going to do. And we've also talked about, well, do you want an aluminum trigger? Do you want, a plastic trigger? How do you want the trigger to feel? A big thing is always the feel of the trigger. And you mentioned it a little earlier about shooting some other guys' guns. They've got a really pronounced wall in their trigger. If you go to a factory custom gun, you might be able to tell them the weight. Like, hey, I want a 4.5 pound. Most companies will not go below a 3.5 pound trigger. A bespoke guy not only can find the weight of the trigger you want, right? 2.5 pounds, 3 pounds, whatever it might be, but also the feel of the trigger can be changed. I'm a huge advocate of the rolling brake trigger, even on the 1911 style guns. In yours, we put a rolling brake trigger with a less pronounced wall. You're not going to get that option from a factory custom gun. You're going to get what they do, and that's what they do. So we have that option. And those are just a few of the, little bespoke touches we put on your gun.
Cool. So and you're going to pay for that.
Yeah.
And you're going to wait for that. And you're going to wait for that. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Cool. Awesome. All right. Any other advantages other than hyper customization for exactly what you want?
Yeah. So the big advantage, especially with the 2011 platform, is going to be the accuracy of the gun. And what I mean by that, we refer to match grade, right? Match grade means something in the 1911, 2011 world. And it's typically accepted that a match grade gun should be able to print an 1.5-inch group at 50 yards from a mechanical rest. It's very hard to make a production gun do that because of the amount of time it takes and skill it takes to fit a barrel system. What does that mean? Oh, wow, you got a super accurate gun, right? A bespoke gun's going to do that or should do that. Well, not only is it going to do that, but what that does is that eliminates the accuracy of the gun as ever being a problem for you. So you no longer have to question the gun. Yeah, the gun is more accurate than 99.9% of human beings in existence. So it really what it does is it just makes it a non-issue.
Yeah.
Like, yep, I know the gun's accurate. Now I need to focus on other things. It's either me or the sighting system or something else is funky if I have some erratic accuracy, but it's certainly not, the mechanical accuracy of the gun. So that's always a big thing, especially for me, because we start thinking, oh, maybe something is wrong with my gun. And I've had guns, I shot M&Ps for quite a while, and beat myself up why my B8s at 25 yards were so crappy and why I couldn't get those hits, only to find out that my gun was completely incapable of anything tighter than a 7-inch group at 25 yards.
Yeah.
With match grade ammo. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, I think we went through the gambit of stuff now. So here comes everyone's favorite part, right? The get it off your chest segment, right? So, bro, what do people, and this can be about anything, right?
Sure.
You are just as high a level of an instructor as you are a gunsmith, so you can talk about whatever you want, right? So what do people need to start doing to get better? What do people need to stop doing to get better? Or whatever you want to talk about. Don't talk about your neighbors. Nobody cares about your neighbors.
Okay. So number one, we need to stop thinking about performance as this magical thing out here that is unobtainable. And I see it all the time in classes, especially, when you demo something or I demo something or someone does something that kind of blows the mind of someone, like, well, yeah, he's just fast. It's not like this stuff happens overnight.
Yeah.
Right. I think we've talked a bit about it, right? Like, oh man, that guy just came out of nowhere. Yeah, after 20 years of work, he came overnight. He was an overnight success after 20 years.
Yeah.
Right. We need to start recognizing that people put in a lot of hard work, right? And if you put in a lot of hard work, not that shooting has to be hard, not that performance has to be hard, but you do have to put work into it. You have to understand the process. You have to fully embrace the process of it, and stop making excuses for really yourself, and just say, well, that guy's just good. He was just born and he knows how to do all this stuff. No one in the history of shooting has ever just been born and they can do this stuff. It's there's nothing natural about any of this. So stop making these excuses. If you love the process, if you embrace the process, if you truly believe in performance, it takes work. If you do the work, you are going to be that overnight success, right?
Or if you're lazy, just admit that to yourself.
And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. If your dedication to this is, I'm a hobbyist and I just like being a hobbyist, that's fine. But don't get upset when someone who is more than a hobbyist is better than you, because they have put in put in that dedication to it, put in that
Yeah.
discipline to it.
I think the thing that people have to remember is, and my old jiu-jitsu professor, Tony Passos, used to say this. He didn't make this up. I know he didn't create this, but I always just say this all the time, right? And that there is no problem if you're not getting better, right, at a fast rate, as long as your expectations match your effort. No problem. You want to come out, you want to roll, right? You only come to class once a week and you get smashed, but man, you're doing jujitsu and your mind's off of work or family or whatever, and you don't care, right, that you're not getting better. Okay, that's okay. That's okay. The problem is when your expectation exceeds your effort, right?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm taking all these classes and I don't seem to be getting better. Well, what are you doing on your own time, bro? Are you dry firing? Are you taking the lessons you've learned in class? Are you taking, some sort of notes and then applying them in your own practice? Well, no. Okay. Well, I'm going to make you better because you kind of suck right now, right? But then you're going to hit a plateau because your expectations far exceeds your effort. And that is the difference of every successful person out there, right? Is that their level of effort usually far exceeds their expectation. Right?
Yep.
So it doesn't matter if it's shooting, it doesn't matter if it's jiu-jitsu, it doesn't matter if it's gunsmithing, right? I mean, honestly, bro, if you just wanted this gun to get to me and just run, right, and me be happy, I would have had this gun a year ago. Right?
Yep, you're not wrong.
But you're not happy with some of the things that developed when we changed some things or talked about some things, right? So I don't get the gun. So, hey, fuck me, right? But hopefully that is coming to a close here soon, right?
Very soon.
Very soon. All right, cool. So what do people need to start doing to get better then, on a positive note?
Yeah, people need to start believing in themselves, in my opinion.
Look at you, Tony Robbins.
We live in a society where we focus on the negative, and I do it all the time. I absolutely do it all the time. But we are so focused on the negative that we, I see it in classes all the time. Someone does something great and they're not happy with it. I use the build drill a lot as an example. They show up to class and they shoot a 3-second build drill. And then at the end of class, they shoot a 2.12 build drill and they're not happy.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Be happy with yourselves. Believe in yourselves. You have the capability to do this stuff. It's not something magical. We need to start believing in ourselves a little bit more and take away this negative.
All right, what do we say in class all the time? It's like, bro, you came here with a 3-second build drill and you just did a 199 with one Charlie and you're pissed off. You're law enforcement. If that was on the job, what would happen? High fives would happen. High fives would happen. You won, bro. You won. Right? So we need to manage those expectations. Do better, work hard, understand the technique. Pat yourself on the back sometimes, man.
Yeah.
Right? Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. 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 Is that it, bro?
For now, I think that's it.
Okay. For now, that's we could go on and on and on. Outstanding, dude. Well, you know what, man? Here's the thing, dude. Every time I talk to you, I learn something, and that's a lot because I see you all the damn time. For those of you that don't know, AJ AIs for me more than any other person on the face of the earth, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So appreciate you taking your time out, man. I know you're really missing not being at shot right now. Next year, right? So cool, guys. Hey, guys, I hope you dug this, man. If so, do me a favor, like, subscribe, say what you want. Again, I know I said at the beginning of the show, I don't do this for you, I do it for me, so I can learn some stuff. But if you learn some stuff, man, support the cause, right? Go out there. If you want to train with me, and 99% of the time when you train with me, you're going to train with AJ, man, go to modernsamuraiproject.com, check out the schedule. We are literally everywhere. There's Olive in the background hunting for blood. Demon cat. Come out and train with us, man. We'd love to come out and train with you and make you better. We really, really would. Right. So that being said, guys, hope you dug today. And more importantly than anything else, be good, stay safe, get training. We're out.